Hello, everybody. Welcome to Looking Through the Glass today. I had another beautiful day, another beautiful recording. Today we have Vandana with us, and Vandana, you do a lot of spiritual coaching and stuff like that, correct?
That is correct. I've been a Reiki master teacher since 2007. Then I became an access consciousness facilitator, facilitating more consciousness in the world on the planet instead of unconsciousness. Then got certified in just about every energy healing system, tradition, modality, shamanism, all forms of energy healing. And then channeled my own healing modality, which was called accelerated light healing back in 2013. Have been online since then, but yeah, doing my own thing, having my own healing practice, nurturing that healing practice, growing it, and trying to reach as many people as possible to awaken as many beings on the planet so that we can just be kinder to each other and to ourselves.
I love that. We were talking a little bit a minute ago. And we were talking about trying to, because we are all three we like to let things lead and go naturally, and let the universe take its course over on what we talk about. But we went ahead and decided to talk about scapegoatism and the sorry, I'm chewing on. Have a gummy right now in my mouth, so I don't have a seizure.
That's okay. Totally cool.
We talk about scapegoat.
Yeah.
Scapegoatism. Wow. Sorry.
That's a tongue
Sorry to laugh.
It's okay. You can laugh. It's okay.
Laughter is medicine. Laughter is medicine. That's what I always
Absolutely.
say. I call it scapegoat shame.
There you go.
Because that is the main component that really makes us suffer and really causes us to shrink and pretend that we're smaller or less important than others. And it brings us into the world of self-judgment, judgments of ourselves and others, judgments and comparisons, and always feeling like we're not good enough, or we can't get it right. We're always like messing up and that kind of thing. We're always blaming ourselves, shaming ourselves, and beating ourselves up, and self-sabotaging a lot. And that has to do with the way we were raised.
Just thought you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say, can you give it, like, would you be able to, for some of our listeners, be able to explain, like, this, give a, wow, what's the word? An example of, you know, scapegoat shame.
Being told by narcissistic or emotionally unavailable or neglectful parents or the adult caregivers in our lives, you know, that we're too sensitive for our own good, we never get it right, we're never really celebrated for our gifts and accomplishments. We're always sort of belittled or made to feel unsafe or invisible, you know. So we tend to hide and stuff our gifts, so we don't give ourselves enough credit or pats on the back. And so it all has to do with what happened developmentally before the age of 7 specifically, but even 5, and even further back in time, before we had language. So when we were pre-verbal, we could even go further back, all the way back into the womb, when we were in our mother's womb in utero. We picked up and absorbed the fear, the doubt, the worry, the anxiety from our birth mother. And we even start hearing like her voice and her sounds, you know, the sound of her, like if she cried or laughed, and all of her interactions and conversations. And a lot of this is passed on generationally. You know, the scapegoat shame is something that passes down from one generation to another, and it can go back even further back, like 13 generations. And it could also affect our children if we're not feeling worthy or
Mm.
lovable or safe, um, in our inner family, in our inner world. So that also gets passed down, so our children and grandchildren can inherit, the scapegoatism,
Thank
as you
you.
mentioned before. um, which also translates to, not believing in ourselves enough, right? And not taking and not speaking out enough, or not like,
It
feeling
dims us
authentic or like
in
a
every
fraud
way.
in every way. In
Yeah,
every
I
way.
think it dims us, and it
Yes.
it's the creator of the minimizing and dimming ourselves to fit into other
Mhm.
people's narratives. At least that's been
Yes.
my experience. But you know,
And
you're
it's,
talking about it goes all the way back to womb, and a lot of people don't understand and take that into
Mhm.
consideration that, you know, a baby in the womb is still having a human experience. It's just having a
Mhm.
human experience in the womb. So they're hearing mom, they're hearing dad, they're hearing what mom is being taken on and absorbing. Because
yes.
my mom had me at the age of 15. So when you were talking about what goes into the things that mom was thinking and the self doubt, this or if she's having self doubt, my mom having me at 15, I promise you, there was so much self doubt and there was so much anxiety, and I'm like, oh wow, maybe that kind of explains why I just am like that. And it's like, well, why can't I get down to like, why can't I get like, I'm healing, I understand we all have
Mhm.
different things, but I'm
Mhm.
always been like, why am I always so anxious or so much self-doubt, like so much self-doubt, it's unreal.
The root of trauma is ancestral, it's generational, and it's historical. So it really didn't start with us. It's a cycle. It's a trauma
Mm-hmm.
loop, right? And so it gets passed down from generation to generation until that one person, and hopefully it's us, becomes, just says no. Like the cycle ends with me. These dysfunctional patterns,
Yeah.
um, addictions, etc., depression, or the thoughts that we have in our head, even, the difficult, painful, unprocessed, unhealed feelings and emotions. And we can just say, you know what? Thank you for the gift of life. I'm here because of you, and I can honor the generations before me for giving life to me, but I don't have to repeat this cycle, the cycle of suffering. And, becoming a pattern disruptor or a cycle breaker is one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves, our children, grandchildren, and also the ancestors, beyond this reality. So our ancestors in the afterlife who still haven't found peace of mind, or a sense of, safety, right? Because they're all also doing their healing work on the other side. So
Mm-hmm.
we're really doing a great service to everyone that we're related to. And once we get free, our ancestors get free simultaneously. So it's a win-win situation.
You know,
But
it's
it does
really.
take a lot of courage and a lot of resilience and strength. And also just, I think everybody gets to the point in their lives where they're like, no, this cannot continue. Like, just because my parents or my grandparents were this way and they were living in constant shame or blame, or, they were, their inner critic or their inner judge was kind of like, making
Me.
them feel small. That doesn't mean that I have to take on the torch, right? Like I don't have to bear their burdens anymore. And I can find myself and live my life differently than they were able to, and make by living consciously and differently, and choosing something different, choosing to feel better, or just choosing to feel that we have the right, that we're sovereign, you know, it's our birthright
Right?
to actually break this cycle once and for all and just say, no, this ends with me. This pattern ends with me.
That's what Giselle and I said when we started looking through the glass. We made a vow to each other and to the universe of the basically the nope, we're stopping this here and now. Like, yeah, I'm
Totally.
done. I'm gonna take whatever I did, whether that's what my reality is or not. It doesn't matter. I need to stop. I've been living in my own reality. I need to see what other people's realities were. And, and I just went to Giselle and I was like, let's do this, and Giselle's like, let's do this.
That's
And
awesome.
she was like, more like, or her reaction was more like, about damn time.
Exactly. Finally, finally.
It literally was like, about damn time. I've been trying to get you on camera for years.
That's awesome. Right, because a lot of the shame, um, it makes us hide from ourselves and the world.
Yes.
And if you are constantly hiding and isolating yourself, you're not living fully. You're not being a full participant in life. You're just being kind of a witness, and you're watching everyone else celebrate their lives and do their work and be of service and share their gifts, and you're just feeling that you don't have what it takes. So it's just like it's a process. You know, it's not so easy to just become a cycle breaker. There is a process of opening up and trusting the universe to support you, that the universe has your
Right.
back,
I
that you're
think
not
that's a big one
alone.
right there.
It
That's a
is a big
big
one because
one.
you never probably learned that growing up. You never received that message that you're
Mm-mm.
worth it. Like,
No,
you go
I was
girl or
it was always
whatever.
control, control, control. Let me or
Yeah,
the facade of control, because that's what if control is
yeah,
it's a facade. If
yeah,
you're trying to control everything, you're just lying to yourself. But that's exactly what I
absolutely.
grew up with. That's exactly what Giselle grew up with, was me constantly trying to control the situations, especially with being in a very abusive relationship, and also seeing and knowing, but not wanting to accept that my daughter was being abused at the same time, because I was being lied to.
Mm.
And I'm gonna be as honest as I can get, is I knew he was lying to me, but because I was always told, well, the adult's the one that tells the truth, and I didn't believe my own daughter, but I knew the jerk was lying to me. But I still went
Mm.
ahead and
Yeah.
went against my I knew better, and that's where a lot of my guilt came in. And then it just kind of cycled in. It cycled in,
Right.
and deeper.
It's
And
a
then
loop.
until one day, literally, I was directed, nope, you gotta stop. And then, but
Mm.
kind of really facing the addiction that I had is what really led me to seeing all of the things behind that addiction. And all of the things that were behind that addiction were the abuses that I created, the abuses that I didn't stop, the abuses that I participated in, and even unknowingly at the time, I still did know at the time.
Can I just say something? First of all, I'm very sorry to hear this, and we all have our stories. I also have been in abusive relationships, neglectful relationships, because we can only really attract what's familiar, what we
Yes,
knew. And if we didn't know
exactly.
any other kind of healthy
You don't
relationship,
know
then
healthy
we're
love.
just naturally going to gravitate to people who won't let us in, who can't really see our special gifts and our light, right? So that's one thing about like attracting what's familiar, what we knew before, and also with the self-worth component there. But also, if you grew up in a dysfunctional, chaotic environment, brought up by narcissistic or emotionally unavailable, neglectful adult role models, um, it sets us up for a lot of similar types of relationships, and especially with the most important relationship, which is the relationship with ourselves and our inner
Hmm.
world and how we feel about ourselves. Um, And so it takes a lot of bravery, courage, resilience, a lot of patience and persistence to actually change the patterns. But once we do, like, it's a practice. It doesn't happen overnight. I don't want people to have the expectation like, okay, I think one day I'm going to wake
Oh
up in the
yeah,
morning and
Lord,
say,
no,
I'm
it
going to be
does
a
not
cycle
happen
breaker.
overnight, and
I
that's
wish,
still
I wish
working.
it was that easy.
Yeah.
But it is a practice, and it's the most important practice and process that we can do to heal all of our relationships. Because when we change, everyone around us notices that change, and then they change how they treat us as well. And it has a lot to do, as you know, with boundaries, you know, and having boundaries. Because if we were brought up in a boundaryless home environment, we're not going to even know what a boundary looks like, how to even
Yeah.
draw a boundary of protection around us, you
Or
know?
to even have the courage to set a boundary with we may know and we may want, but to have the courage to speak up and say this is a boundary that I have is something
Yes.
that was very it didn't really exist. Or I would set them up, but I would absolutely allow them to be walked right on over
Yeah, you
because
didn't follow through and reinforce them. And that's a
exactly.
practice too. But every time you notice that and you become aware of that, because this all has to do with self-awareness,
Yes.
you can just say, wow, okay, I'm getting better though. Like, I'm getting there. I'm not
Mhm.
perfect yet. I'm not exactly where I need to be, but I'm noticing and I'm appreciating the progress that I am making.
I
Right.
love it
Until
you
one
said it
day
like
it's
that.
like, okay, I see that hole in the ground. I'm not going to fall into it. I'm going to
Mhm.
take another street. I'll take another block. Right. I'm not even going to walk and dance around that hole. Right. But
Yes.
I'll just say, oh, there's the hole. I'm not going to fall into that hole again. Right. I'm going to practice safe and strong, healthy boundary setting. And I'm just going to go in a different direction.
Just thought you were going to say something.
Well, yeah, it goes along with the boundaries because I still struggle with the boundaries. But I'm learning and you know, and like you said, learning to appreciate setting up those boundaries.
Yeah.
It's that helps keep you going and pushing forward with it. Self-love was one of my biggest things was I was don't know how to love myself, don't know how to look in the mirror and tell myself that I'm beautiful. That's something I struggle with very, very badly. And one
And it's not
day,
your fault. Can I just interject and tell you it's not your fault?
I
I
know
mean,
it's
if
not
you didn't hear that growing up, you didn't have your needs met, you didn't hear the praise or the, you know, you're beautiful, you're perfect just as you are, like you're doing great. You didn't get all that encouragement and empowerment.
No.
How would you even know how to give it to yourself? It's like you
exactly.
have to unlearn and relearn how to
Hmm.
be in this life, you know,
And
how to
I,
treat
you know,
yourself with respect.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I made those steps forward, you know, steps I've never thought I would ever do. You know, here I am in the midst of, you know, going through womanhood of, you know, and you know, we all have it a period and you know how that makes us feel down and about of ourselves. We feel disgusting with ourselves for some reason. And I was able to look at myself in the mirror and go, I look beautiful.
Amazing.
And
That's
I'm like,
incredible.
and it
You
was,
are
and I looked at,
beautiful.
and I
Yes.
am, and I looked at my husband. I said, I can't believe I just did that. And he's like, because it's true. And I was,
Oh,
and I have that
nice.
support, you know. And
How
but you
lucky
know,
are you that you found somebody to really recognize your inner and your outer beauty?
that's where I started breaking
So you
those
already broke the
traumas.
cycle. You
Yeah,
already
Hmm.
broke
breaking
the
those cycles.
dysfunction.
Yeah, she
Yes.
absolutely is.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
beautiful. And then not
Thank
only to say the words, but to feel the words as truth, as your truth.
yes,
And to feel it vibrate in every cell of your body when you say it. And that's also a practice. Even if you don't actually feel it all the way, and that there's this inner judge or inner critic, the voice, the chatter, the mental chatter that says, is that really true? Do you really feel that way? You could just say, you know what? I am learning how. I'm learning
Hmm.
how to feel
yes.
beautiful inside and out. I'm learning to acknowledge my what's special and different and maybe quirky about me. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm perfectly imperfect.
Yes.
Until you actually can one day look in the mirror and say, you know what? Like I love like I love everything about me, and you know that takes some practice sometimes. It might not happen overnight, but you're doing great. Sounds like you're making a lot of progress, and you really are like cutting up those cycles. You know, you're breaking them apart, you're ripping them apart, and you are being an inspiring role model for your baby,
Oh
for your
yes.
entire family, and the babies to come,
Oh
if there
yeah.
will be more. Um, I'm psychic too, so I'm not going to say anything more about that because that's a different show. That's a different topic. Um, but yeah, so, you know, and for all little girls and little boys, you know, and because it's about honoring the feminine and masculine inside of us. And if we didn't have healthy role models, you know, both women and men, that disempower themselves, because, you know, the shame comes from them being shamed because they
Yes.
were shamed from their
It was
parents and their
projected and
grandparents, and it's
projection and
all
projection and
traveling forward.
projection. Yeah. And
Exactly.
then what
Everything is a
happens?
projection, but we didn't know that growing up, did we?
No, no,
Right.
we had no idea. It was ours. And
Yeah.
even as an
So we took
adult,
it all in.
yeah,
Right.
even as an adult, I took it all in. I took it
Yeah.
all in until about 2 years ago, where I said, "Fuck you, I'm not doing that anymore." You
Exactly.
know,
I'm done.
I'm
Right.
done. Yeah,
That's
I'm
awesome.
done. I'm done with beating myself up. I'm done with beating everybody else up because I'm so full of shame because I can't quit doing drugs. You know, and then that's where it really landed with me was when I. And it's really funny because, I never really craved doing the drug. I had something that happened with me. It's in our YouTube, but it was very
Yeah.
supernatural. Something that happened to me, very, very supernatural.
Oh, tell
And
me
I,
more. I love supernatural.
well, basically, I want to say that it was basically somewhat like an exorcism that happened in my bathtub. Between me, universe, guides, whoever else was there, and my husband standing in the corner holding a towel, going, "Oh my god!"
Alrighty
But
then,
I
right?
literally was guiding. I was talking to myself through this, like my higher
Yeah.
self. I was somebody else was talking to me. There was different voices. There was voices that were not human. There was all kinds. There was water that splashed up and went up and like hit my ceiling from my
Oh,
bathtub. Yeah, and I have a closet.
wow.
My bathtub. I have his closet, bathtub, my closet door. Those doors were both closed. The clothes on the inside behind that bathtub were wet. And 2 weeks
Whoa.
later,
Crazy.
I wasn't able to stop doing. My DOC was methamphetamines, and I wasn't able to stop doing them without it almost killing me. It was where I was forced to do it because I was so physically, my brain could not handle that crash because of the brain
Mm,
injury. So then, what it led
yeah.
into every time that I tried quitting, I would have so
A
many
relapse.
seizures
Yeah.
so many seizures, so many seizures to the point to where my family was like, "Go get it," because I'm watching you not breathing. I'm watching with every seizure they would get worse and worse and
Wow.
worse. And I'm not kidding. I was directed, literally directed, in how to quit doing drugs by my guides.
So that was your rock bottom, and that was also your wake-up call. That was
Hmm.
definitely divine intervention.
Oh, it was
And it
divine
had to
intervention.
appear that terrifying for you to take notice
Yeah.
and to make it and to change something and to get better.
And 2 weeks later, I was told, okay, no more. This is it. This is the last time you do it. You're no more allowed. And that was the last time I did it. I was actually directed to
Amazing.
be clean by the April 8th, and I was clean by April 6th. I stopped doing by April 6th of
Congratulations.
2024. I was told that I needed to be clean during the eclipse, is what I was
Oh
told.
yeah, definitely.
And
That's perfect, clear, pure guidance that you're receiving. So you are a
mhm.
channel of light, and sometimes it just has to really be that dramatic for us to really pay attention, to be that shaken up.
Yeah.
Um, because if it's subtle, you would just ignore
I've
it.
had
You wouldn't
subtle
really
my
get it.
entire life and I didn't listen to it. But yeah, no,
Exactly.
I was able to quit
Wow.
not only without any seizures, I
Hmm.
was also able to quit with very minimal of the regular withdrawals that people would get. Um,
Wow.
yes, I was very, 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 very safe. There was absolutely divine intervention, and I was saved from a lot of hell. But I spent a
Wow.
lot of years praying every time I was getting high. I was praying, begging, just take the seizures away, and I will meet you the rest of the way. Begging. And then all of that happened, and there was catalysts that
Wow.
went into it. I don't want to go deep into it, but there was catalysts that went into that happened, and it was literally, I know what it was. It was catalysts. Think God saying, universe saying, you need to do this, and then that's literally what directed and fell right into looking through the glass.
Amazing. Amazing. Amazing grace.
Yeah.
Uh, I
Yeah.
also wanted to ask you, I'm just curious if it's okay to ask,
You can ask anything you
do
want.
any ancestors, like recent ancestors, have any addictions, any problems like in that area? Okay. This is what I mean by everything is pretty much ancestral and passed on to us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not only the physical, so not only physical attributes, so but also like the gifts as well as the burdens. And it's what we do with them, how we respond to them, because we can switch those genomes off, right? So they don't keep playing out and affecting us by living differently, by making different choices, and just by our sheer awareness. So that's why I wanted to ask you, because it didn't start with you. And this is what I always
No.
tell my clients and in my workshops that I have online every week, that it didn't start with us, doesn't belong to us, but it can end with us. And just so, because most of us beat ourselves up, especially, if we were scapegoated,
Yes.
if we were neglected, abused, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Um, yeah, but the thing is, most of us beat ourselves up and we think that we're messed up. Like we have the problem, like we're not strong enough to overcome, the challenges that we face every day. But it's not even ours. So if we can remember that, wait a minute, this didn't even start with me. Like I don't have to buy it or adopt it or sell it. Like it's not mine, and I could return it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I teach people how to do, is how to talk to those ancestral influences or the spirits of our ancestors, and just have a conversation. Like, I honor your difficult fate, but it's not mine to carry for you in my body. And until eventually something shifts and changes. So yeah, you were saying that there was an ancestor that was suffering from addiction challenges, right?
I have multiple. I have on both sides.
Multiple
Yeah, on
on
both
both
sides.
sides.
Yeah. Yeah, they're multiple on both sides of theirs. Um there was a lot of, so it's really funny. Our family is mainly made up of women, and but women that took on very strong masculine roles and stayed
Mhm.
in that
Because
masculinity,
they
and
had
then
to.
passed down that you must be in that masculine in order to survive this world.
Oh,
And
same with me, by the way. Same with me. So like I've
that
always had to be both, like mother and father
yeah,
figures, to my
yeah,
my son. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Um, that's great that you have the awareness that you can see through the illusion and confusion, and you could
It took a
recognize
lot of
that as a
work.
pattern. It did, but so worth it, right? Because you don't have to
Absolutely.
repeat, because that's called a loyalty vow. You don't have to continue um, aligning with the loyalty vow
Can
that
you
won't
explain
let
that
you be
loyalty
yourself.
vow to me? Because
Yeah,
that
it's a
really, when you said that, there was a
yeah,
reaction within my body,
yeah,
and I'm smart enough to understand those
of
things.
course. So there are
So,
two things. There are legacy burdens that we carry from our legacy that we pass forward, we project onto our children. If we, those burdens, if we never unburden them. Um, and then the loyalty vow. So the loyalty vow is like a vow that you make, it's like unconsciously or secretly, subconsciously, where you, because you're part of this family that you were born into, and you share the same cells, blood, DNA, even the bones, right? So you just take on their identity and you make a vow. Again, it's unconscious 99% of the time, that you'll never do better than they were able to, or that their pattern, their addictions, their problems, their pain, their stress, their trauma is also yours. Their sickness, their illness, or whatever it is, their burdens are your burdens. And so until one day you become conscious and you break those loyalty vows or those agreements, those contracts, those
yeah, those.
hidden secret contracts, right?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. And you
Okay.
just say, I'm doing this not only for myself, for my descendants, but also my ancestors. And
Hmm.
in other words, it doesn't allow you to do better, to feel better. If your parents, grandparents, great grandparents were born into poverty, that cycle of poverty, um, scarcity, lack, right? Not being able to pay the bills or not, just in survival mode, then that happens to us too. Until we say, wait, just because they experienced this and I come from this legacy, that doesn't mean that I have to take it on and I have to follow their destiny. It's about
Mm.
finding your own destiny.
And you do workshops every week, correct? Like on these kinds
Absolutely.
of things?
Yes, I do. For
Yeah.
since 2013.
Wow. So can you
Yeah.
tell our listeners a little bit about your workshops since we're on the subject?
Yes, thank you. Well, I have a lot, and mostly they're
Did you say
about how
customers? I
to.
meant to say listeners.
I didn't hear you say customers, but you
Oh,
might
okay.
have.
I guess I was like, wait a minute, did I say
Um,
customers? I meant to say listeners. Sorry.
Thank you. First of all, I'm very grateful that I'm in this position because after I became a Reiki master in 2007, I was only seeing people in person, clients. I was facilitating healing circles, support groups, and I was also teaching in person. After 2012, when it was supposed to be like the end of the world as we know it, the end of the Maya,
Hmm.
it was actually just the
The
end of the
Mayan calendar, yeah.
Mayan calendar. I decided I want to work. I want to be able to move wherever I want to, live wherever I want to, have that option, but also teach and heal people online so I can reach an even larger global audience. And that actually came true just a few months after I asked, maybe even less than that. It happened almost immediately. I met my old business partner and we decided to partner up and co-teach and create our own, like download and channel our own healing system, our own modality. And I was doing that with him for 6 years until I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to go solo. And that's exactly what I did. I went solo. And so, yeah, I'm teaching all these classes online. I'm very lucky. I feel very blessed that I have clients from all over the world in different time zones. And so the classes, I have taught over 300 programs since 2013. They're all in my Divine Light library. But it's mostly these days about empowerment. And I think it always has been. So I teach things, anything, everything from galactic light healing to ancestral healing to how to reparent your own inner children, how to tend to your own wounded inner family, your inner parts, to clearing like unconscious patterns, programs
Mm-hmm.
that are passed on to us. And the most recent one was called the Bone Woman or the Bone Memory uh, Healing Program, and that has to do with all of these patterns and programs and all of the spells that have been cast upon us actually live on in our cells, blood, bones, and DNA. And our bones have a memory and a vibrational frequency. So
Mm-hmm.
our bones carry all of the remembrance, the whispers of our ancestors, the trials, tribulations, but also the triumphs. And since all of the memory lives in our DNA, we have to just learn how to make contact with that first healer, medicine woman ancestor. And we all have one, even if it feels hard to believe. So that was a 3-week course, and I saw a lot of emotional releasing, a lot of tears, but happy tears, and a lot of empowerment and from my clients a sense of freedom, liberation from the family pain and shame. So that was the last one. And then I have one this Saturday coming up, which is about how to break that spell that's been cast upon us, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how to unpack all of the burdens, the shame, the blame, and the pain. I also wanted to share that I've done my own inner work with 12-step groups called ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. I
Mm-hmm.
was brought up by the latter, dysfunctional families that have never possibly taken a drink, but they're known as para-alcoholics because their behavior and the way they treat their children is very similar to someone who is, either, you know, messing with substances, so substance abuse or alcoholism or drug abuse. And it's interesting. So they take on the same kind of inconsistent parenting patterns. And all of this has to do with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
That is the driving force here, is the
Yeah.
trauma. That's what creates the addictions. And that could be food addictions, sex addictions,
Any
workaholism,
addiction.
all of those isms, right?
Yeah.
And that helped me a lot to understand that this is my life's work. This is my mission. This is my purpose. Because I was able to help myself by talking, trusting, and feeling my feelings with a group that was safe and a support group with other women. This was like a sisterhood. It was a small, intimate group where we would just share. We would go through the 12 steps, and every week we would meet every Sunday. And it was, you know, a chance for me to share my grief, my loss, the feeling of deprivation of never really having that happy go lucky family, that safe and healthy family, but also listening and holding space for other women. So I just wanted to share that everyone who has any type of childhood dysfunction, even if you don't remember it, even if you're in denial, because most people are, and they protect, that's the
Yes.
loyalty vow. They protect their family. They're like,
Yes.
no, my family, my parents
I
were, they
refused.
never hurt me.
It's really
There's,
funny because I refuse to acknowledge the amount of abuse that I had when, and my therapist was like, Sela, you need to recognize, in order to deal with any of it, you need to see it,
Mhm.
and I was
Come
like,
clean. It's about coming clean
yeah, and I
with
was
yourself.
like, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it wasn't that bad. She's like, it really was. It's okay for you to say that it was,
That's the freedom. That's the freedom. That's the unburdening.
and
Um, Yeah.
learning to be able to do that though. You like I
Yes.
had to learn and accept that I was allowed to do that. That was the one thing where that's why I say when you said the loyalty thing, I felt
Yeah.
something vibrate in my body and I was like, that
Something
one
there.
strikes a little too hard because I wouldn't even allow
Hmm.
myself to even admit what I had gone through. And I think Giselle
Because
has a little bit of that too.
we're protecting them so that they wouldn't be exposed and the truth
Mhm.
wouldn't come to the light. And that actually is just enabling them and continuing the cycle of abuse.
Yes,
But you
absolutely.
recognize that and you were able to feel safe enough to come out of denial. And that's what I want to share with the world. And that's why I do what I do. And yes, is it like, is it not an easy path that I chose? No, it's not easy because most
Mm.
people are in denial. But the first step to recovery is coming out of denial and
Hmm.
also not blaming, not carrying on the burden and the heaviness and the lie of blame and shame. That means like not blaming our parents, but also allowing ourselves to express healthy anger, like and unfairness and injustice, you know, without the need to lash out and to understand that they only did that to us because hurt people hurt people. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that,
And
right?
it really, what really helped me was I always just kind of looked at it was one day I just went, my mom did the best with what she had, with what at the time. I did the
Yeah.
best with what I was given and the choices that I had. I made them at the time. I cannot sit here and look at where I'm the position I'm in now and look back and go, well, it's so much easier to judge because I'm in a higher position. I have more
Yes.
money, more resources compared to then, and so I'm judging. And I was started judging myself based on the resources I have now, and I had to stop myself and go, whoa, 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 whoa,
It
you're
couldn't be any other way than the way it was, the
yeah.
way, but yeah, and you realize like, wait, I can even, you get to a point where it's like, I can even try and hold a space of compassion and deeper understanding for their pain because they must
Yes.
have been acting out with me and making me wrong. That's the
And
scapegoat.
what
The
were they going
scapegoatism
through in order to do that to me?
to make
They
themselves feel better about
exactly.
themselves. So someone has to
So,
be
because it was
blamed in the
survival for
family.
them just as much as it was survival for us.
Yes, so it's a survival loop. It's a
Hmm.
trauma loop and it's a survival loop. But it sounds like you both have made so much progress. So I'm so proud of both of you. That's incredible. And it's so empowering. And that's why we need each other. And that's why we can't do this work alone. Like grieving
Hmm.
alone is the hardest thing. And like grieving is not linear.
Mm-mm.
Like it's lifelong actually. I mean, grieving the loss of our childhood is a big thing. And it actually is the most healing thing we can do. It's just like admitting and acknowledging, yes, that happened, but
Yeah.
that doesn't define me.
Mm-mm. It doesn't
That's
define
it.
me, and I can turn every bit of that and turn it into knowledge.
And strength,
Uh-huh.
because that's why I call us survivors, because we are survivors of childhood trauma. No
Just
matter
like,
what complex PTSD symptoms you have, no matter what diagnosis, what you call yourself, neurodivergent, neurotypical, ADD, ODD, like
all of the
all of those.
D's and all the letters, you know.
Yeah, like it
I've been
doesn't really.
diagnosed with quite a few different things, but most of that was from my head trauma. They like refused to look at the fact that I hit my head, like I had an actual physical brain injury instead, and they were looking at my behaviors, not the fact that I had brain injury. But anyhow,
I
just
don't
like
really
you've
like
been,
labels a whole lot, so that's why I'm
yeah,
bringing that up because that's like putting
yeah, I
everyone in the same
agree.
box, and that's really limiting us,
I agree.
and really a big disservice to us. And everybody is an individual. Everyone is so different. Like no two people are the same of survivors of childhood trauma.
Just so you've been looking like you had something to say for quite a minute, so
We're like blah 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 blah.
Did it though? I'm very in tuned in the conversation. I'm listening because, I do have a hard time. I'm uncovering traumas still. I have a lot of backdoor traumas that I from way back when I was like 8 years old that I am slowly uncovering. Like I uncovered that um a lot of the men that I or guys that I attracted, in my teenage years were very ashamed of me. I was very I because you know I had family that was ashamed of me, and so I was attracting that a lot. And then I met my husband who never even showed a little bit of a shame. He absolutely was like, nope, we're gonna put you right here on display. and
Yes, about
and
her all the time.
and feeling that, finally being seen and finally having somebody who can see me and as who I am and not my traumas and not, you know, having that person to lean on for once in my life to actually listen to me, that was something that allowed me to start my healing. And my healing journey has been very long. And that's
Yeah,
because I try to run from healing it and just go,
of
I don't need to
course.
heal it. I can just go forward. And that's not the truth. I have to heal it.
It's a process, like but you're willing to actually go through it. And it happens in stages, just like grief. There are like, what, 7 stages of grief, And denial is like the first one. So you can't really make any, uh, you can't really shift anything or come to terms with anything if you're still in denial or if you avoid it. But it's going to happen in your own time. There's no rush and there's no like actual finish line. It's just a question of um, honoring where you're at and how much you can handle and process without overwhelming your nervous system. And whether it takes 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30 years, it happens little by little in increments with your readiness and with your nervous system. You have to remember that survivors of childhood trauma, our nervous systems are wired differently. And so they
Yes.
can only handle so much before we
Yes.
get dysregulated. Like even
Mhm.
with Zoom with me yesterday, I definitely became very dysregulated. I couldn't even sleep because it was like an ongoing problem that I couldn't solve. And as a
Mhm.
child, I always felt helpless, like I needed to solve all my own problems because nobody was really listening. Or they listened sometimes, but not all the time. And so I remember saying, like, when my son was here, I was like, nobody can help me. Nobody can help me. And I was like, oh my God, that was the first thing that I was probably thinking to myself and feeling inside when I kept all the stress inside of me and I didn't feel like anyone really cared about me because no one was really, the people that should help you are your are your immediate family members. And if you didn't feel that way growing up, you take that into adulthood. And it becomes like so hardwired into your nervous system. And so I realized when I heard myself saying that out loud, like I actually felt like a child. I felt like I was 8 years old. I felt like I was in school and I wasn't getting the help that I needed because I learned
Mhm.
differently. And I was just like struggling so much. And, when I felt less than the other kids, I didn't feel as smart. And then I realized like, oh, like when I joined ACA, I was like, oh, that's why I was struggling with math, with science, with a lot of subjects. That's why I always needed tutors, like not always, but a lot of the times I did. And my parents just didn't understand it. They just judged it. They were like, well, you must be doing something wrong. It's your fault, which is horrible, right? To say to your own child. But they didn't know better because they were traumatized themselves. So we're being raised by traumatized adult children. We call them adult children. We're adult
Mhm.
children.
Well,
Um,
because they are.
yeah, they were, and they continue to be, unless they get help. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen a lot, especially with narcissistic people.
Because the
That's a
number one
whole
stage
nother
is
conversation.
denial. The number one stage is denial. And if you deny what you were or
Yeah.
your part in things, and you're too worried about being a villain, and that's where with me, and I really had to let go because I had a lot of narcissistic tendencies from my narcissistic parents.
Yeah.
So, I had to really let go of that. I don't want to be a villain in this story. I really had to just surrender that to the universe because that's where it was really difficult for me because it hurt to know that I was a villain in Giselle's story. That I
So
was a
what
villain at
role did
all.
you play in your family? Were you the black sheep, the hero, the golden child, or the scapegoat, or a combination of all of the above?
Combination because I'm an only child. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
So
a yeah,
there's
that's
golden child like the I needed the expectations of the golden child. But yet, when it came to my father, he made sure that he let me know that his bar and his expectations were so low that I had no way of not missing them. You
okay.
know,
Mm-hmm.
like it was funny. He told me when I was pregnant with my 19-year-old now and we're at a family event and then of course everybody walked away. We're all in a group outside talking and everybody walked away and this is why I was smoking cigarettes at the time. And he looked at me and he was like, yeah. He goes, I expected you to be pregnant at 13 and having and going and leaving everybody to raise your kids. He goes, I was absolutely shocked that you actually raised Giselle yourself. I just knew that you were going to dump her off on everybody else. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, well, Dad, I am so glad that I was able to beat your expectations. Thank you.
Wow. Ouch. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was just like, well, and
That's a
that's how I
lot. That's a lot to
that
process right there. Like,
that's how
yeah.
I had to take my dad my entire life because when he wasn't able to get me to change my mind about my mother, then he worked on my daughter and my children to get their way to
Mm,
change their. He had to work on the way I seen myself because my mother was the one that raised me, and so therefore I had to be exactly like her. And in
that's a
his
loyalty
eyes,
vow again.
yes.
The burden, the feminine burden, the divine
Mm-hmm.
feminine wound.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to unpack, but it sounds like you both have made so much progress on your path, and you have so much insight, and you're doing the work, and that's what counts, right? You're not ignoring, denying, resisting, or refusing the facts. Like, hey, this happened, and
Mm.
that doesn't define me again.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And when with the
so,
conversations with my that I always had with my dad, because my dad was like this my entire life. You're right. Like this is the way he talked about my mom. This is the way he talked to me, and I would always just somehow, some way, there was a divine intervention that would make it bounce off of me a little bit.
you were protected
Yeah, I could
always.
feel it bounce off of me because in that moment of being told all that stuff and I was in a very abusive relationship and I had went back because I was pregnant, and this and that. So like he could see that I had the shame. My dad has gifts. He could see that I had the shame and what I was
Mhm,
struggling with and he was
mhm.
using it and I could always
Mm,
feel God go or the universe or some go, this is the response that you need to have. Calm, grounded response. That's the response that you need to have with him.
and I have to say this because I'm being told this, karma is a bitch. So what goes around comes around. And also, you can never win, or don't waste your time arguing with a narcissistic personality because they always need to be right and you always need to be wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And again, it's painful because as children, we took that all in and we actually believe those lies about ourselves that were never true. So this is a
Hmm.
constant re-education. We have to constantly like be like embody our adult self with a capital big S, right? And talk to those inner like inner children parts or inner teen parts and tell them like, hey, it's not your fault when you catch yourself, um, acting out or behaving badly or saying
Mm-hmm.
something that you regret later. You can just like tell that part of you it's okay. Like this is a process, and I've learned something new about myself. Um, and it's a whole conversation that's like an inner dialogue that you have to have with those parts. And like if you catch an inner judge or an inner critic, you can say, hey, just give us some space, and just like we need some space to unblend from you. Like just take a break. I'm in the driver's seat right now, and I'm intervening, and I'm going to protect my inner child, right? Because all of those parts actually do want to protect us, but they don't know
Yes.
how to. They're so worried that something bad might happen to us because they also think that we are 5 years old still. So those wounding parts, the inner child, I'm sorry, the inner judge, inner critic, our managers, they're all also a word called firefighters that are so worried about us all the time. They think they're also 5 years old because the
Mm-hmm.
trauma happened at that age, or 10 years old, or whatever age you were. So it's a question of finding the part of you, like you said before, that is calm, clear, just curious about, everything, about all your inner family members, and compassionate. That's the most important thing, is having compassion, even though we weren't shown compassion as much as we deserve to, or maybe not ever. But we can hold compassion for ourselves, and we can forgive ourselves and just say, it's understandable why I reacted that way. Give yourself
Mm-hmm.
a break, give yourself permission to let that go and not beat yourself up anymore, because you were beaten up way, way too much growing up. Even once is enough. And
Yeah.
also, I remember going to a therapist when I was going through my divorce, and she said, you know what? You don't have any physical injuries, but if I were to see you under a special camera, I forgot how she said that, you would have hundreds of scars and marks and bruises all over your body, because it's the emotional bruises and injuries. And it's also the attachment injuries that set us up for life from our
Yeah.
parents, from our first role models. And I remember that really hit home for me. Like you said, the loyalty vows hit home for you. That really, I was like, oh my God. She's like, you say you're fine, but are you? You say it's okay, but is it? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no. And when she said that, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? Like, why am I accepting this treatment?
Yeah,
And
right. When you that light bulb like slightly starts to fizzle, because that's how it
yeah,
was with me. It wasn't a boom light bulb. It was a little filament fizzle, and then a little bit, and
mm,
then later on, it would go out. Later on, it would fizzle a little bit more, and then later on, like that's how it was for me. There was fizzles of
I like the way you put
self
that.
worth and like why would I even put up with that crap, and
Because
why
we
am
didn't
I?
know any better and we didn't know anything different. It was familiar and comfortable.
Yeah.
And the trauma actually felt safe. Those are the trauma bonds that are
And it's
sometimes hardest
really
to
hard to
break.
come out of those familiar,
Mhm.
safe, trauma bonded. I didn't know that love was supposed to be more than this.
Because you were never shown that. So how would you know it?
Exactly.
But now you
Exactly.
know it, and that's what counts.
Yes.
And that's where the compassion comes in, the self-compassion comes in. And it's like you said, it's like little increments, it's baby steps. They say in ACA, easy does it, baby steps, you know. And whenever you're feeling a certain way, you could say, oh, that's just the memory, that's just the echoes from the past. When I used to feel that way, I actually don't feel that way right now. So I'm just going to let that go. I'm going to send some love to that part of me, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's one way to separate and unblend from those parts that can overtake us, where we feel like it's actually happening again. but it's
Yeah.
a imprint, it's a memory from the past that
Mm.
feels like it's still playing out now and it's still happening.
Because our safety mechanisms are still in there and still where it, when it happened.
The survival mechanisms, yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
And also, like, it's great that you have, Giselle, like, a really beautiful and safe support system. We all need that. And I think, like, the real work comes when we can find that within ourselves. And that can take some time and
Hmm.
patience, and acceptance, because human relationships are fragile. And the thing is, we also don't want to get caught up in like, this person is perfect, because then we can't see their flaws. But it's the most important, I want to say, is like you have the outer support system, but also the inner working in tandem with the outer.
Yeah, and that's where really it's just really at is that inner person that's willing to stand up for you. Like I recently got that little person inside that was stood up for me against all the other voices and stuff, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I stood up for me." Like I couldn't believe it. Yeah, and it was so amazing. It was so amazing, but it does happen. It just be patient with yourself and love yourself through all of
Forgive
this.
yourself, because it was never
Yes.
your fault. I have to always tell that to myself,
That I
like,
think is the
I am
biggest
this
part.
way because of my past, but I don't have to be a ghost from my past. Like,
Hmm.
I can heal the past by healing myself in the present, and all the parts of me, like all of my, even my wounded parts, the good, bad, right, wrong, the ugly, the
Right?
beautiful, they're all welcome here.
You're saying gonna say something, Giselle.
Oh, I totally forgot.
Sorry. This has
Yeah,
been
it went out the door.
this has been such an amazing conversation, and just
Thank you.
I have enjoyed every second of it, and I thank you for coming on and being our guest, and we would love to have you on again.
I would love to be on again.
Yeah, we would love to have you on again because the conversation is flowed so easy.
I know. I feel like we just got started. Like we're
Yes,
just
that
getting started. We're going so deep, and I love the flow and the synchronicity and like the way that we all really get each other. And hopefully, and we just trust that the right people, the right listeners, other survivors will find you and us, and that we can be helpful, and this conversation can be meaningful for
well
as
we
many people as possible.
we still have some information that we need to get from you so that our
Yes,
listeners can find you,
yes,
because I'm quite sure that it will get to the right people, and
awesome.
and we want them to be able to find you.
Thank
So
you. Okay, so the way to find me, the easiest way, is to just find my website, and that's Vandana, V-A-N, that's V like victory, Vandana, VandanaLightHealing.com. That's also my handle on my YouTube channel, on my adult child podcast. So that podcast is Adult Child or Adult Children in Recovery. You can find that on YouTube.
we will definitely
And
be. I'll be checking that one out for sure.
please do. And please like and subscribe and follow me there and write a review or leave a comment, because it really helps the algorithms, as you know all too
Yeah, we
well.
know. Yeah.
And sometimes I also feel hidden, like online, like because I have this important stuff to share with the world, to empower the world, and it's like, no, we're only going to get you 5 subscribers. It's like, no, help,
Yeah.
Get me out of this
We,
bubble.
we
I want
understand.
to
We
be hidden.
understand, and you're not the. We had a podcaster yesterday. We had a recording, not yesterday, the other day. We did recordings, and you're not the only one that feels that way. Because
Thank you.
he was feeling that way quite a bit that way too. That he just didn't quite feel that it was getting out to the people that he wanted it.
And
That
to the right
that to
people.
the right people. He was
Not
feeling that
everyone's
way,
ready
but
to do this work. It takes a lot of courage.
it
Oh,
does
also
take a lot of courage. Yeah. So go ahead.
I'm also on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. I'm not on TikTok or anything because I don't feel like a TikToker. I don't know. But
I
I'm
don't
open to
blame
that as well.
you.
But yeah, on Facebook, also Vandana Light Healing is my business page, so you can like my page as well there. And that's about it for now. I think that we covered all the bases, so I'm really grateful to you ladies. Thank you so much. And you did fine, Sayla. No seizure,
Gotta
no
trust.
anything. I knew that you would do well, that I just trusted, and that's what we all have to learn how to do, right? So
Hmm.
it's a process, but thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, thank you so much for
Well,
being on. This has been an amazing journey, event, talk, and adventure
thank
with you
you.
today. Giselle, you had
Mm.
something to say. I could see it.
Oh, my question. I realized what my question was. I was wondering why she went green today.
Oh, go green, right? Um, that's a good question. Well, for me, emerald green is the heart chakra, the Anahata chakra. And I do
Mm-hmm.
feel like my heart is very open. I just had like an inner child client that I introduced her to her 6-year-old, a little girl, and tears came up and she felt so free, free of all the doubt and the worry and the anxiety. I just welcomed her inner child back into her heart space. So maybe that has to do with it, or
Yeah.
maybe the connection with nature. Like I just need to get outside more, and I really like it's a cloudy day, so I feel like I crave to walk on the earth and to just be around trees and maybe hug trees. So that's a good question. Every day is different for me. Today is my green day. Thank you for noticing. I mean,
She
green
did
is Mother
notice.
Nature. You did.
I did because
Thank
when
you.
we did our little pre-interview, I don't remember that one. I don't remember what color it was. But then I was like, she's wearing green eyeshadow, green earrings, green shirt, and her
It's actually
background's green.
blue,
Oh, it looks
but it might
green.
appear that way. It's like, yeah, it might appear that way on camera, or maybe it's a reflection of my background.
Yeah, I think it's reflecting
But
from the
I
background a
love
little.
blues, I love greens, and yeah. So thank you for noticing, Giselle, and
Rose.
thank you, and give my best to the little baby, to your little one.
Thank you.
Oh,
I
they're
will.
adorable, and enjoy them, and
And
feel good. And I will definitely make an appointment for another conversation soon.
that's fantastic. That would be great.
Thank you.
And for all of our listeners
Okay.
out there, if you want to get in contact with us, you can reach us at 12 look in through THRU 34 the glass at gmail.com, or Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all those other wonderful things. So you guys know where we're at. Thanks for listening and looking in through the glass.